All right, we ready to talk about it?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Wait.
Welcome to the Artie's Attic Warehouse 13 Fancast, where a steampunk girl, a lifelong sci-fi fan, and a rocket scientist chat about the popular 2009 sci-fi series. There's never a dull moment with the agents dedicated to protect humankind from unexplained phenomena that manifest their powers in special objects. And there's all those friendships and relationships along the way. Grab a cookie while you can. Hope you don't smell fudge. Gear up with your Farnsworth, Tesla, and neutralizer, and let's have some fun by snagging it, bagging it, and tagging it.
Welcome back to Artie's Attic. We're a Warehouse 13 fan cast. I'm the Warehouse 13 janitor, here to push buttons and clean up after the party is over. And I'm grateful for every minute that I got to spend with you guys. My name is SP.
Aw, same.
And introducing Artie's Attic lead agent and historian who still claims the sun will never set on the British Empire. It's Agent Shannon.
What's up, guys?
That's a good one.
Such a good scene.
And also returning is the warehouse agent who continues to see buttons and then push them. It's Agent Carolyn.
Must push the buttons. Must push the buttons.
It's who I am.
What's up, guys?
It's the last one. We are concluding our Warehouse 13 series discussion with the episode finale that premiered on Monday, May 19th, 2014. 10 and a half years before the epic tap dance fight scene in What If Season 3, Episode 2, What If Agatha Went to Hollywood?
So we did this almost exactly 11 years later?
Almost.
Yeah. I'm referring to the Warehouse 13, Season 5, 6th and final episode, Endless. The TVGuide.com description reads, the team shares stories of their defining moments. Pete has a hard time accepting the end of Warehouse 13. Claudia has a difficult time accepting her future role as the warehouse caretaker. Shannon, I have a question for you. What exactly did Mrs. Fredrick show Steve all those times?
I don't know, but I want to see Mr. Fredrick.
I want to see Mr. Fredrick too. And whatever it was that was before that he was like, you were there for that? I want to see it.
I think it came out in the DVD commentary, and I don't have the DVDs, so I can't go and look at them, but there were different things that were supposed to be in there, and we'll talk about those later.
Cool. I love how they opened up. The whole episode was opening up in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you get to see Jamie once as HG there, but then you get to see her later on. That was the surprise part. I forgot all about that part where where the medical thing where they were in his heart. I'm like, what? But yeah, she looked good there.
She did. Her hair was very good.
Straight, yes.
She had very good hair.
I think it was not only fitting for her, for Jamie Murray to be there, but I was really pleased that we got Eric Avari as well as Pertuwanga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, her person,
her mentor.
Yes, her mentor. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. So
really
cool that came in. Of course, in this episode, you kind of saw everything, but you only had actors in a select few new scenes, right? And that was one of them. And I don't know. I kind of appreciate it. It tells you where the warehouse was a couple of 100 years ago. It tells you what that change could mean, right? Because they're talking about a whole new different country. And
when he was explaining it to her. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to see HD again. So yeah, it was all good.
I have a question though. It looks as though at the end it is still in South Dakota. So, with Claudia saying if I had a nickel every time somebody said the warehouse is going to move. So did it stay?
It looks like, in my opinion, whenever they closed out this episode, they were still there probably for a little bit longer.
Oh,
it had to have been a lot longer because Claudia was then the caretaker.
Right. I really liked how they sort of fading the characters out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did. It was interesting. So does that mean that they succumbed to artifacts along the way, or did they die of old age?
I think,
or did they retire, or what was going on with that?
The way I processed that is because Mrs. Fredrick, once she became caretaker, she quit aging, right? She stayed the same. So she might have seen all those things that Jinks was like, oh my God, you were there for that. But once she became part of the warehouse, everything else around her would move, but she stayed the same because she was part of the warehouse. So I think once Claudia becomes caretaker, she gets frozen in time to be able to deal with that while everyone around her lives out their lives and probably passes away, and she's still the caretaker. Because you've seen Mrs. Fredrick talk about in the past about her son was in a nursing home, right? He had aged. She stayed the same.
I think to me that the part where they all faded at the end was just them kind of it's to mark the passage of time. So yeah, they're still doing their parts, but they're all having their last little say as the passage of time keeps going. And we just assume that they just keep searching for these pings until they can't. Right,
because it was just a time capsule that they were filling that day.
I also had the feeling that there was a slight out. Now, I don't personally believe this theory, but it makes kind of some sort of sense in my head that the warehouse had gathered its team and it really liked the team. And it wanted to give something back to the team. And that was, I think Steve came out with, or was it Steve or Pete, or maybe it was Mrs. F. I can't remember. But what I do remember is somebody brought up the fact that this was the warehouse's gift to everybody else.
It was
that was the memories that the warehouse was showing them, their defining moment. Those memories were the warehouse's gift to them. Mrs. Fredrick said it. She's like, that is the warehouse's gift to them, because Jinx had that such profound nirvana of literally being inside of Artie's heart. So that gave him such nirvana, but he had forgotten about it. So the warehouse reminded him of it. So she was saying that this was the warehouse's gift,
not just
to
you put
all
into
of the people that are in the warehouse. You have done these amazing things, and I want you to remember these amazing things that you did. But I also think the warehouse at the end was like, you know what? I really like this team. I don't want them to go anywhere just yet, because Mrs. Fredrick said, see you tomorrow, Pete. And although he did say, you know, Irene, he called her Irene after he kissed her on the cheek. That was so cute.
You know, I think because the warehouse picks its agents and because it picks its family is why you get to see the surprise of Janelle Williams there, right? You don't get to see a lot of characters that's died as their character come back and talk about, I knew this was going to happen. That's why she was such at peace with it.
That was a really cool scene because it kind of retro-conned her death. And, well, I'm torn a little bit about it because it retconned her death a little bit in that she knew it was going to happen all along. But we don't see that until now. So it's like all the hurt, all the, like, you've wasted this character and everything. It was retconned by this one scene. And had I waited the immense amount of time between the seasons and more time had passed, I think I would have viewed it, and I think I did view it differently the first time around than I viewed it this time. And the way I viewed it this time was like, okay, we finally get the reason why it all happened, because she knew it was going to happen. But it would have, I think, made it a little less of an issue if we had known that at the time.
And the only thing that we knew at the time, there was a scene, an episode, and don't ask me which one, but there was one that Mrs. Fredrick talked about how she promised her that she'd take care of her if she could. And then they brought that back. So she's like, no, I do everything in my power. No, it's okay. I know what's going to happen. You can't stop it. Yeah. So that was a cool moment for me. But I think the best moment, my favorite part of the whole episode was not Myka and Pete kissing. But
really?
It was not that. But the part where the warehouse threw Artie an apple.
Right.
Yes.
Right? So just like
that whole scene.
Just like HG, when she knew she's about to die for the warehouse, and she's like, I smell apples.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Artie gets an apple.
This episode had all the feels, and that was...
It actually made me cry. It made me tear up.
It did.
It didn't make me cry, but I was like, oh, that is so neat. And I did watch it twice. So the second time around, it gave me the same feels. It was like, oh my gosh. And not only that, but we named the podcast specifically Artie's Attic for a reason. Mm-hmm. And that is that scene is the reason. This whole journey, you could talk about it's Claudia's journey, and I have before, but this scene really points to these 5 seasons are about Artie and Artie's journey as the lead agent. Mm-hmm. This is Artie's time, and this was Artie's devotion to the warehouse, and it all came together with that one scene.
And you get to see a new introduction for Artie's son. She's like, what the what?
That was good. And Artie was all dressed up too. They both had a tie and a suit.
It was New Year's Eve.
I know, but it was just kind of nice to see Artie in something other than what he normally wears. And of course, he had his magic bag and had his son, and he's like, "Oh, why didn't I think of the wine glass?"
So it's like, yeah, it was so obvious.
Yeah, his son's like, "Oh yeah, duh."
It was sarcastic, by the way. He wasn't saying it was obvious, but yeah, that was a cool scene. Yes, I will agree with Shannon that Artie's powerful scene in the warehouse was one of my favorites.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, it wasn't the only one that gave all the feels, though. The thing about the son that was a minor feel that we just talked about right there was kind of cut short because Claudia then does I need to process this sort of thing, which is
what?
I think it's a fault of the character. We've seen it. I've talked about it many times. The need for Claudia to run away from the room and process things. It's very real. Different people do it that way, but it almost got annoying throughout the series, seeing it over and over and over again.
Another one of my favorite parts, though, was that scene between Artie and Claudia and how he's like, it's okay to be selfish, because her epic thing of the tap dancing, which was just another favorite scene of mine, because that was just cool. Why did you have to push the button, Pete? I don't know. I see a button and I need to push it. And then they're just tap dancing.
They did actually have to learn that part.
I don't doubt that. They were doing very well.
I remember reading behind the scenes of that. They all actually had to learn to do that.
It was funny to watch Artie try to type on the little computer as he's tap dancing, and she's like, hold on. Wait, come back here.
Yeah.
But that whole scene between Artie and Claudia, just him saying, look, you don't have to choose the warehouse. You can be selfish. And she's like, but I thought you'd be mad. He's like, I am mad, but because you kept secret. She's like, double standard. He says, I'm the parent. I can do that. But then she realizes, oh, okay, so it's okay for me to be selfish. He's like, oh, look, she can listen. That scene was like, aw, like it was really good. And the tap dancing and the funny lines in that one just made me crack up too. So,
well, the lesson that Artie was trying to teach her is that, she's like, well, how come you're not introducing us? I want to get to know him, and I want him to be an agent. I want him to be. But you need to have that separation. You need to have something outside of these walls that's not related that you can keep focused on.
Well, he does go to Comic-Con with him. So
another drop. I think the only other time I've ever heard them talk about Comic-Con was in the pirate episode.
Well, yeah, it was. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, because he lives in San Diego, so why not win in San Diego?
There was did you also catch the other drop that HG is now dating a woman named Gazelle?
Yeah, I think that cheapened the Instinct episode quite a bit. So I like this episode. Let me get this out. I like the episode. It was a really good episode, had a lot of feels, and I think it was a great conclusion to the series.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of issues with it, and that is one of them, where we had this great episode, Instinct, where HG was in a good place, where she had found her calling. She was in a family unit, and she was there for that girl. The girl needed her and everything, and they had gone their separate ways. I mean, if HG was going to date a woman, why not Myka? So from both of those standpoints, I'm like, that comment actually totally cheapened that entire episode and the entire character development that occurred at that point.
Because I would have went back from Myka and heartbeat. Yes. And her white t-shirt that she seems to be wearing at all the time.
She was in the white t-shirt again.
It's like all of this season, I'm here for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. Yeah.
I did like that in the beginning where she was that HG was her first snag and bag was Jack the Ripper's. I had this question. So they used the purple wampet way back then to pick up things. She just picks it up with her bare hands. Did they not have anything like purple that they were going to pick it up with?
I don't think gloves were.
How did they neutralize it during that time then? If they didn't use the purple wampet, it was a wampet, right? I think it was a wampet.
Yeah, but
what
that
did
was
they go
way
to?
earlier. That was earlier than that. That was like in the Middle Ages. That wasn't in Victorian era.
So what are they using in London?
The Victorian area.
Because they're bare-handing artifacts. She used several.
Yeah, those are public uppy moments because, I mean, technically, maybe you could say that the lantern wasn't exposed unless you open it, like
okay,
McPherson did to her parents,
or it was recharging.
I don't know.
Okay,
or the thimble that she used.
She did use the thimble. She used the thimble, and then she used glasses to not be affected by the lamp. And she did Tesla the guy. That was pretty good.
With her own
and other people are just Tesla. Not. Other people are not happy with her because they're writing on the walls.
Literally writing on the walls.
That was funny.
I like that scene. I love the tap dancing. I like the fact that in behind the scenes that I remember when it came out that they actually had to learn all those steps.
Mm-hmm. And Artie saying, "You're our only hope."
Star Wars thing into it.
I mean, we talked about Jinx going into Artie's heart and that whole scene already. Mm-hmm. Did you catch the reference to Star Trek the motion picture in that?
Yes.
No.
Him being like in the heart and in the outfit and
how he went end over end into the sphincter thing within V'ger itself. That was Spock, by the way.
That was Spock.
Did it.
Yep.
It was 1-for-1 for Star Trek the motion picture.
Yep.
I didn't catch that. Also, all this time we've been doing podcasts, just today, maybe it's because you're very clear. Did I notice the Star Trek behind you above your head?
You've actually mentioned it once before.
Oh, stroke victim. Okay.
Actually, if you go back a couple of podcasts, it's probably about the third or fourth time you mentioned it. But yeah, it's up there.
Dang it.
It's okay. You have a good excuse.
Yeah,
you have a good excuse.
And then to close the loop on Claudia and her, again, I think it was really cool for Artie to have that learning moment with her. But then it was, okay, I don't need to be caretaker. But then at the very end, we see her as caretaker. So it's like...
Well, she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do. She knew what her destiny was. She had accepted her destiny, but she had doubts.
She wanted to be an agent.
Like, I never had any doubts. I was resolved in my thing. And she's like, that's not helping.
Yeah.
But I think Artie giving her permission to decide what she wanted and figure out maybe this isn't it, or maybe it is. I think that really helped solidify her desire to be the caretaker. In my head canon, it helped me solidify what she wanted to do.
Speaking of her as caretaker, did you see the cameo at the end?
Of Jack?
Of Jack Kinney.
Yeah.
Yep. He was the guy that was put the stuff up on the board.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was Jack Kinney.
The older guy?
Yes.
The older guy that was being Artie?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, that's cool.
For those that don't know, Jack Kinney is the showrunner of the show. He was also the director of several episodes. We talked about him before. This was his 7th and final episode that he directed, and of course concluded the series. So yeah, that is why it was so important to have Jack. And then Claudia saying, Jack, that was intentional. Like, all those times you were yelling at me, here's me yelling at you on screen.
She was wearing quite the cool dress too. Little leather dress.
Jacket went in the auction, the post-series auction, for quite a bit. I
don't doubt it.
I did. Okay, I did. You said y'all watched it a couple times. Tonight's the only time I've watched it. Probably sometime. Was she wearing the pearls that Mrs. Fredrick wears?
Ooh, I didn't notice. I bet she was.
Well, look at the GIF you sent. The picture that you sent on Twitter.
Ah, dang it! I did.
It'll be on there. Hold on.
I did also have.
No, she's wearing her skulls.
I did.
She's wearing skulls around her neck.
Have a slight issue, and this is just perpetual. You're never going to get a young actor really capable of mimicking a more mature actor, and this came through with Claudia. She was trying to express it, but you could just tell she just doesn't know what it's like to be old. Yeah, so it's like her manner of speech was probably too fast. Her mannerisms were very young and not.
Well, maybe she had to become caretaker faster than Mrs. Fredrick did.
Well,
she was trying. Well, not look. That's the wrong word. She was trying to project someone that was probably in their mid-40s.
Yeah. Well, somebody more like how Mrs. Fredrick, a CCH pounder, comes across, right? Yeah. And it just, I could appreciate the effort. I really did. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, if you actually got Allison years later to the point where she was that old, she would not act the same way that she did that scene.
Probably.
Speaking of CCH pounder, she was my favorite part of the episode. When she burst out in the laughter, that was my favorite moment.
Oh my God, her laughing, that was absolutely funny. Jinx, or maybe you just broke it.
Maybe you just broke it. I mean, that was so deadpan. It was amazing. It was perfect timing, and she busted out loud. They're like,
I wonder
what's happening here?
What I wonder was that actually in the script, or did he just come off the wall with that and it cracked her up? Because her laugh was genuine. It was a genuine oh my God, that's funny.
That might be because everyone else was laughing too. But they're like, I've never heard you laugh. I've never seen you anything other than, the straight face.
Than Mrs. Fredrick. Yeah. Than what she is. So yeah, my wonder was that in the script, or did he pull that off and then everybody just cracked the hell up and they're like, well, we're leaving that in.
They probably had a lot of fun this episode doing that sort of stuff, because this was literally, the last thing of the series to this day. I mean, they haven't done a special movie or anything else, but I'd be laughing my butt off too sitting at that table, because it looks exactly like a DHD from Stargate.
It does.
It did. And if
it was missing the round dome in the middle.
And they had the Stargate actor in it. Right? The guy that played her HG's.
Oh, Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Vardy.
Yeah. He's from the Star Trek movie.
He was in the 1994 Stargate movie. Yeah. I think he was also in 3 episodes of Stargate SG-1 at the very beginning.
Right? Daniel wife's father. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot think of the names of his wife or anything, but yeah, I remember that part.
I mean, he's also been in 3 episodes of Jag, 2 episodes of Jag, but he's been in them. So, yeah, he was in a lot. 152 acting credits since 1962. I can see him in a lot of different films. I think the biggest one that comes to mind to me when I think about him is The Mummy from 1999.
Oh, so that's the one I was going to say is The Mummy. I think the other funny part that was Pete trying to say, well, no, I'm going to keep the warehouse here. There's got to be a loophole because, Jinks is like, well, anywhere would be better than South Dakota, so wherever it moves, I think we'll be better off. And Myka's like, the new warehouse picks new agents. It's in the manual. And Pete's like, I'm going to find the loophole. Myka takes him into the room of manuals, and it's like, this huge room with a ton of books. He's like, come on, partner, let's find the thing. And then as she's leaving after they have their little tiff, he's like, I don't want to read all these books. And the next thing you see him trying to do is shove the compass in the furnace. And she's like, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So again, I think, I don't think I said this before, but I think the warehouse was using the compass as a ruse to give the gift to everybody. So I don't think the warehouse was actually going to move. I think
it was just kickstarting things. By the way, we could be moving soon. Go do something. Yeah.
Soon-ish.
You need to go do this because I want to do this now. And I think after that, the compass stopped glowing personally. So there's that. And then also I don't know if it's deleted scenes or extras or whatever, but Pete finds out while he's reading the manual why things smell like fudge.
Oh,
Artie's son smells fudge.
Yes.
Did you catch that?
Yes.
I caught that. Sorry, you said fudge, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, why does this place smell like fudge? Yeah.
Yeah, why does it smell like fudge? But did you find out why fudge is the smell?
No, I think it was a scene that was deleted, or maybe, and I don't know how it was known. It's in the trivia for the episode. There's also a trivia of what Steve and Mrs. Fredrick were originally supposed to be looking at. So they see her husband, right? And instead of that, she was either showing him how she came to the warehouse, which the whole thing with her sister, remember?
Yeah, that would have been good.
Or how she teleports, one of the two.
Ooh.
But they elected to go with the husband for that.
I like how Jinx is the only one that got to see all of Mrs.
I was about to say, I like how half of them weren't even there watching the whole thing. So
everybody left, and Jinx is like, you were there? That's Mr. Fredrick? And the whole Leena thing, and then he's like, I need a moment. And I'm like, I do too.
Yeah, I wasn't crying that much, but I did enjoy, talking about him trying to fit in. And I think Mrs. Fredrick was trying to give him that, right, in all these memories. Yeah. And also that he's kind of filling the role that Leena did as well with the placement of artifacts now and everything. So I think there was some of that. But in that process, they equated, and this is the first time I've ever seen or heard of this entire Warehouse 13 lore, is equating them to the Munsters family.
That was hilarious.
He thought he was Marilyn.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm Marilyn. And Mrs. Fredrick is not important.
No, it's not really part of the pattern, is what he said. And if you look at the characters from the Munsters, you have Eddie, you have Herman, you have Lily, Grandpa, and Marilyn. There's not really anybody or anyone else except for secondary and tertiary characters, which is not really fair to put Mrs. Fredrick in one of those roles. So they're like,
Yeah.
But they were just using it as an analogy for Marilyn of saying who wasn't fitting in.
Yeah. He's like, I don't fit in. And Claudia's, what do you mean, Pookie? You fill it in just fine.
So for me, going back to the elephant in the room there, I didn't like, of course, Myka's defining moment is her deductory skills, right? Of course.
Oh my God. That was good.
It wasn't just deductory skills. It was also her kicking butt too.
She kicks ass. Yeah, I get that. But the whole ninja thing and Pete and the pink polo, and I'm like, burn my eyes. These parts are the horrible parts to me.
Well, yeah, it was cheesy. But did you catch the music that was kind of like in the background? Yeah. It reminded me of like, what was that video game where it was like, if you killed him, they're like, oh, final conflict or something like it was like final conflict or something, because you heard in the background you heard it go Myka Bearing, and then like, good shot or something like that. Like in the music in the background, I could hear it, and I'm like, that sounds exactly like the video game. It would like, fatality or something.
Yeah, I want to say Tekken, but maybe it's I
The one where
Mortal Kombat.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah. That's the one I'm trying to think of. It was like Mortal Kombat in the background.
In the trivia, by the way, I remembered this before I read this, but in the trivia, it says the background music playing during Myka and Pate's fight with the Ninja Housewives is a parody of the Mortal Kombat theme song.
Okay. Because my brother and I used to play that a lot, and we would love to do the different things where it would make somebody go, toasty, the characters come out. So my brother and I would love to play it just to make those things happen.
Are you two aware of the inverse ninja law?
No.
Okay. The inverse ninja law is a media trope regarding not only ninjas, but any character type that is shown to attack in massed numbers, such as soldiers, robots, Daleks, or vampires, but not zombies. The inverse ninja law states that the threat level of any number of ninjas or other what's-its warriors, whatever, is inversely proportional to their numbers. Therefore, if you're attacked by a lone ninja, you're in trouble. But if you meet an army of ninjas, they're going down.
What does inverse mean?
It means the power punch capability of ninjas go down with numbers.
So
in other words, Myka could kick butt.
More there are, the less powerful they are.
That's correct.
Correct.
Which is why Pete wins. I don't know.
Pete and Myka.
Pete and Myka.
Even it doesn't matter what episode of Warehouse we're on. If it's those kind of scenes, I find them too cheesy for me to enjoy them. This is coming from a woman I know that grew up watching Xena, and there was even episodes of Xena. I'm like,
that's some cheesy stuff there.
That's some cheesy stuff. I can't watch that, fast forward it. But episodes with this kind of stuff in it, I was like, oh my God, this is why I don't like this season. But
I did find it funny though when she comes in and she's talking to Pete as he's trying to save the warehouse by destroying this compass, and he's like, I know. You've got this, and he goes into this whole speech, and he's like, yeah, and then she kisses him,
just to
and he's
shut
like,
him up.
Very funny, Jinx, I told you I'm not your type. Take the thimble off now. Or told you I don't swing that way. Take the thimble off. And she's like, I don't have anything. And then he's like, so you kissed me?
Kissed me?
For realsies? He's like, for realsies?
I can't say that
his face was adorable.
In that one was, she's like, well, better get used to taking orders from me. He's like,
right. Well, and then he's like, then he says, well, I best tell you that when you punch me, it actually really turns me on. She's like, I know. And then he's like, so when do we get naked? She's like, well, technically we've already swapped bodies, so you've seen me naked. Oh yeah.
This is a good day.
And he calls her not.
My question though is at the end, when they're looking at this ping and he holds onto her hips and she says, not while we're at work. You're always at work. So when then?
Maybe back at the B&B?
True story.
What, that's still kind of work?
True story. I actually know several couples over the years, like decades at my work, that have been caught at work.
That does not surprise me.
Because they're always at work.
Because they're always at work.
One ended up in a very important position a few years ago in Washington, D.C. And I don't know where the other partner ended up, but they all went off to bigger and better things. So they're all hard chargers and hard burners, yeah. And some are couples today and some are no longer couples.
There it is, flings.
Yeah. So I could see that, especially, it's Warehouse family and they know that they're together. Jinx was the one who revealed it to both of them, basically. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question.
Yep.
If the person you're with works at the warehouse also, does that mean that they're not your one?
We've gone over this one before.
Right?
Oh.
We've had this discussion before. Yes, we have. Great question, though. Does it?
It is. How can they be your one if they already know because they work there?
They're not your one.
I say you should get another one because, Pete's already used his one. That was
on Amanda.
on Amanda.
I think
that
there's
was
an out there. Yeah, the Regent, the new Regent.
He did with Kelly.
No, not Kelly.
With Kelly. Kelly had to know where he worked because he ended up.
No, it wasn't Kelly. It was the the
gal that ended up being the Regent. Oh,
she actually went on to a couple other series too. Is it Sally Richardson?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
Here's another question though. After all of the things that Artie has done for the warehouse and that was some great acting by him. It's totally just, he's like, after everything, you're never going to find somebody who takes care of better than you. Yeah. That was amazing. But wouldn't you, if you had taken such good care of the warehouse, do regents change with warehouse? Like, does the warehouse pick new regents? So if it moves to London again, are there new regents? Can Artie become a regent? If they don't change, can Artie become a regent and then still be involved with the warehouse for the rest of his life?
We actually haven't seen a regent for a long time. It was
they all died off, a lot of them.
Not all of them, but Kosan was the last one that we've seen. And that was trying to take care of Artie.
Yes. But so that's a good question though. What happens to the regents when the warehouse moves?
I would imagine that they get swapped out too, because the caretaker gets swapped out. It's not going to be when it moves. Even if Claudia turned it down, when it moves, Miss Fredrick won't be the caretaker. It'll be the next country's host that'll become their own caretaker.
I think they were laying, I think I mentioned this last time, they were laying a lot of seeds for a future warehouse continuation or made for TV movie or something like that. They were just throwing a bunch of stuff out there saying there's more to this universe. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see a continuation series in this, just like Picard season 3 was to the Next Generation.
That would be
Jack
amazing.
Kinney at the time was talking about a spinoff with HG in the 1800s. So that was was already in talks. And it was in talks even after she took Defiance. But then I think the budget got in the way because it would have taken a lot more to be able to be back in history all the time. So maybe that's why they were dropping the hints of it, because now you're getting to see. We find out in this episode when he was talking to her while Jack the Ripper's laying on the ground, right?
After being
you don't even apprehend him, you just zapped him, but he's out for a while. He's okay. Right. But you find out in that scene right there that it goes when it wants to go to a whole other host country, and it moves in. Oh, you mean 1 through 11 or whatever wasn't here? No, and the next one won't be here. But you didn't ever hear that in an episode beforehand. Mm-hmm. So you find out the information from back then. So I think that they were dropping the seeds then. It just didn't plan out.
Absolutely. So I was thinking in terms of the continuation or a reboot or whatever off into the future. And some of the characters may or may not be available. That's what I was thinking of. But then when you mentioned that there was talk of going back to Warehouse 12, and generally, I'm like, no, that's not going to work going back in time. But there are so many examples of it actually working that I can't make that argument at all. Even with Big Bang Theory, there's now two really hot prequel series to that. There's Young Sheldon, and there's the other one with Georgie, the brother.
Yeah.
So there's two prequel series that are doing pretty well with that. Better Call Saul, for those that are into the more mature sort of stuff with Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul was, for a lot of people, better than Breaking Bad. I've not seen either series, but I know that, me neither. Right? So doing a prequel warehouse series might not actually be a bad thing, but you would have to go back to Warehouse 12. But because we have so many characters that we know of Warehouse 12, you're going to have to recast most of them, I think. Right. And I don't know if that would work. So in my opinion, it still would be easier for them to do a continuation in the future.
Not to mention that whenever you're doing the past stuff, if you've already introduced a character like HG, and you've seen her throughout the series through different times, and then you're going to be trying to do a prequel. Well, eventually the character is supposed to be one age, because in the past she's supposed to be younger, right? But then they fixed that because she didn't age while she was bronzed. But now you're going to have the actress herself continuing on. You're going to be needing her to play a younger self back then.
They have technology for that.
So you're right, but it would have been better if then, even if they would have just had a spinoff with Claudia Donovan. At the time, if we just got a Claudia.
During the COVID lockdown, they did at least one virtual panel, and I watched it either before we started doing this show, Artie's Attic, or shortly after we started. And she mentioned that she didn't really have a desire to go back and revisit that character. So I think it's mainly around her and her desires versus anything else.
Which is funny because when I was watching her play a character on The Vampire Diaries, she was the exact same character as Claudia Donovan.
And maybe she doesn't have a lot of range. Maybe that's it for her on screen.
There were shows that she went on to after, and I can't think of what they were. Veronica being Veronica or something? I don't think they were really comedies, but...
Oh, yeah.
She was on
trying to remember. I don't have her IMDb up, but I remember us talking about it. Yeah.
Yep. She out of all of them, I think she would be the one that would be able to pull off a spinoff.
Well, she would have to, the way things are set up. I mean, we know 50 years from now, after the warehouse ends, so it's really like 40 years in the future right now. But 50 years in the future, we know that Claudia is the caretaker and the entire agents
have either moved on or...
Yeah, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to say...
they're probably gone or dead, I would imagine.
Well, and that's what I was saying to begin with, yeah. So that is the only way into the future here. And I still think that the way artifacts are created, the way they manifest themselves, I think it's still valid. It's not like this was old sci-fi concept that you can't do anything with. I think you could make many episodes or movies or whatever about this concept. You could even completely reboot it and do different things, like the whole McPherson thing, having to use the same artifact that Artie did to, save the world, and that is why he turned out the way he did. You can roll those sorts of things in there, plot enhancers, basically, the second time around. But we've seen what TV has done when they do that sort of thing with Battlestar Galactica, and gender swap several characters and everything. So it's never going to be.
I think it was done successfully on that, though.
I will agree, but that's my point. It's never going to be the exact same. It's going to be another rendition.
Yeah. I really enjoyed when Pete came in and did his defining moment. And it was basically...
That gave me goosebumps.
It basically showed you all of the amazing scenes in the 5 seasons that we got.
And all the hugs.
And all the hugs and all the feels and all of the... And by the end of it, you're just like, aw.
Was that your favorite then? Pete's scene of everything? Your favorite of your favorites?
Oh. I think that would probably be the favorite of my favorite. I mean, I had several favorites, but I think that would probably be the favorite of my favorite. And him just saying, I found my family. I know I've changed for the better. And even if this ends tomorrow, I know I'm a better person for it because of my found family. And I know we will stay together. So I think that gave me all the feels of like, aw.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jinks later. I think you just broke the table.
It just shows you the great dynamic that they have as a family unit.
Yeah.
Like, it gave me all the feels because you're getting to see a rewind of a really fast rewind, but a rewind of all the moments that we've had, which each one of them, when each one of them touched it, it wasn't. Now, Myka, it was just like kind of focused on her thing. And you didn't, and Jinx was focused on that, but you never got to see whatever else him and Mrs. Fredrick were looking at. But Claudia and Pete both, when they touched it, it was like just spinning through everything. So
I did for Artie too.
Moment.
When Artie touched it, it did for Artie until he landed on his son's memory.
He made it do that.
He made it do. That's like Mrs. Fredrick's like, "Can I do it? Are you sure you want to?" Yes. But for Pete, it was everything. All of it was his defining moment because it defined him as a person.
Yeah.
And Claudia.
This whole episode had all the makings of a clip show without being a clip show. You know, do you guys know what I mean when I say clip show? It's when the characters get around and they reminisce about this happening or that happening. And it generally is around some time where the writers are
running out of things to do.
Yeah, they run out of ideas or they run out of time to produce more elaborate episodes or whatever. So they just throw clip shows of best of basically on there.
Yeah.
This was that, but it was not that. I was thinking that this was a clip show. Yes, I will agree with it. But we see new clips that we haven't seen before, first of all.
Yeah, like tap dancing.
Yeah, or the whole Pete Myka with the ninjas or whatever. Or Artie and his son. It's all new things, right?
Or HG with the heart and medical thing.
But it was all for a purpose. It was this is why we're here at the warehouse. This is why we're a family. This is why the warehouse actually exists. We finally got to get to this point. So it wasn't just hey, remember when? It was no, this is why we did everything that we did. And it wrapped up the whole if you take a look at it from the TV show perspective, it wrapped up the whole series pretty well. And even though I had quabbles with it, I don't know if we talked about all of them, but we talked about a lot that I had. It was still a good finale. They stuck the landing.
Yeah.
I like the show more because of this episode.
Not only did they stick the landing, but by them getting another ping at the end, okay, well, we're done with our feelings. Let's get back to work, right? That's how
time to get back to work.
Let's get back to work. It shows you that it was just another day at work. Like all these other things that you got to see that we never had an episode out of it. Like I would have liked to watch an episode where the whole tap dancing happened. Or HG, what happened to Artie? Why were they in his heart?
Yeah. How did that clock get in his heart?
That would have been worth an episode to watch. But now you're seeing just another day at work. Okay, well, we went to work today. Man, Pete touched something again. Now we're all tap dancing. Those moments that you don't get to see because they never made an episode out of it. But now it's just their everyday life. You didn't get to see, the ninja stuff with Myka. But I still like how you have the ping at the end. It just shows you that they're just going to continue on.
It did remind me of the ending of Star Trek Next Generation when they're all sitting around the poker table and playing poker.
I've got
just another night.
Yeah, I've got a couple other things there too.
And it just reminded me of that. And everybody's going back to the way things were, this is another day at work. Let's just have fun. This is how we end the series. Everything ends happily ever after kind of thing.
So the way they ended it, like they didn't have a defining hard stop. Nothing tragic happened. This is what's going to happen to us when it's over. But until then, go back to work. And it just shows you fading into your everyday nuances of your job.
There were two other Star Trek references. There was the best of both worlds that Artie brought up, right? Because he's saying, I have my son and I have the warehouse. I have my family. I have the warehouse. It's the best of both worlds for him.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the name of a two-parter Star Trek Next Generation.
The Borg.
Yeah, exactly. Between season 3 and season 4, big cliffhanger. We talked about it before. And they also named the thing All Good Things. When Q says the full line to Picard within the episode, Artie says, all good things must come to an end.
I saw that. I heard that.
Great episode.
Yeah, when he was
that could happen in 25
when they were stopping time.
Yeah.
All good things.
All good things and best of both worlds.
A lot of things can happen in 25 years. And then Beverly kisses him. Yeah, I remember that episode.
There you go. All right, so Carolyn, your favorite was Pete's scene, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had several favorites: the
me too.
Artie speech and the Claudia and Artie speech, and just a lot of favorite scenes. But I think that one has to be my favorite, just because it ties everything in and it has all the feels, and it's like, okay, yeah, okay.
Well, Shannon stole my number one, which was the Artie scene with the apple. So
that was the number one. Yeah.
That was my number one. My number two was Pete's scene. So Carolyn,
my number two is Mrs. F laughing.
You get to have the laughing.
That was good.
I have a total of 5. So I did appreciate the ninja fight scene. I know Shannon didn't like, but I did appreciate that because of the inverse ninja law. And I did.
It was funny.
Also like Jinks, where the warehouse gift to you, that line was.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then I also like Leena's memory. And I think I'll have to go to Leena, or Mrs. Fredrick's memory of Leena, basically, of that. I think I'll have to default to that because I think it successfully retconned it, but it was so aggravating in the middle between her death and that retcon. So aggravating. It's like, dang it. And Jack did a great job. I don't know if it was him or if it was the writer, but somebody did a good job of saying, yes, we know this happened. We're going to make it right. This is how we make it right. The writer, by the way, was John Paul Nickel. And we've talked about him before. He has 2 writing credits, but he was basically the staff writer over 27 of these Warehouse 13 episodes. So he wrote The Big Snag. So everybody likes The Big Snag. And he wrote this. So he did have a couple of bangers in there.
Yeah, that's most definitely.
All right, anything else? You want to talk about food not eaten in the episode?
Okay, so I have to say, when we first started this, I had not watched Warehouse 13 in a long time, and I distinctly thought that there was a lot more cookies in Warehouse 13. I distinctly remember Pete eating a lot more cookies. And for some reason, going back through it, I'm like, where's all the food? I mean, yes, he's obsessed with food because he's Pete. So I remember there being a lot more food. I mean, Pete's always obsessed with food, but I swear there was a lot more cookies in Warehouse 13. I know he was eating like something like dip in this one or something like that. But that was basically the only food I remember in this episode.
I like how they showed it, the scene where he licked the phone when he dropped the cheese. I'm not phone, but the Farnsworth, he licked it. You are like a dog.
Yes. I already have a child.
Instead, if anybody's listening to us right now in this episode and you're considering doing a Warehouse 13 podcast in the future, I do have a suggestion for you. And that suggestion is, instead of counting food or cookies or whatever, which I think is still valid. I mean, you could talk about different recommended recipes or whatever to have a different take on it than us. Or you could do the same take on as we did. I don't care. But I think you would probably be better if you did hugs instead.
Well, there's that.
Unwanted hugs. There's just a bunch of hugging in this entire series. So I think hugs would be good to count. And I think that would meet the intent of this series anyway, because it is so dark. And maybe that's why I like this episode, because they took a very dark subject line and very dark episodes and plots, and they made it all good.
Mm-hmm. Definitely had all the feels.
So yeah, my favorite memory would be Leena's, Shannon's would be the warehouse and the apple, and Carolyn's can be Pete's scene, but we all have multiple favorite scenes.
Multiple. I mean, Artie calling the warehouse a whore.
I like Artie's, but it's not just because throughout the series, we forget that the warehouse is its own character. So the character of the warehouse had a memory and he was thinking Artie. So you get to see everyone's memory. Artie played the memory with the son, but the warehouse itself spoke up and it was thinking Artie. Just like in the episode where Claudia gets zapped a lot because the warehouse was trying to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone got their moment, but the warehouse interaction with this crew had its moment too. And it just happened to be throwing an apple down an aisle. That'd be kind of ghostly, but it was still kind of cool.
I think, the throwing of the what artifact did it have? Throwing or rolling, whatever. What artifact did that?
Wonder how many times they had to film it so it rolled just right and not like into the side and over to that side or over to that side. I wonder how many times they had to do it before it actually hit its mark.
Was it real or was it CGI?
And if you want to have another connection, in Warehouse 12, she was being groomed to be the caretaker. Right? You remember them talking about how HG had the potential of being the caretaker. And then over here, she's the only other one that you've heard them smell apples or been involved with apples, and it's Artie. So, I mean, I think obviously it shows you that the warehouse chooses its people.
Yeah. At the end, he picks up the apple. Okay, well, then.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
No apologies. Just, okay, got it.
Okay, well, thanks.
All right. It's time to play the game. It's the game we've been playing since the beginning of this series, and it is the game of where did SP rank this episode. SP has ranked me. I have ranked all of the episodes 1 to 64. Now, the entirety of everything. And I do have a bias. I'll admit I have a bias. I like world building. I like positive things versus negative things. You know, the whole Leena death was very difficult for me, that sort of thing, even though it was very meaningful. So I get it. And this is not definitive. This is just where I have ranked everything. But the game is where did I rank it? You guys get to guess, and then I get to tell you where I ranked it. So out of 1 to 64, Shannon, where do you think I ranked this?
Well, for the fact that they brought back Leena and answered the burning question, and for the fact that we got introduced to a new character, which is Artie's son, and all the in-betweens, I would put this in the top 10. So, 10.
Yep. Carolyn?
I'd say it's number 5.
Number 5. So, I mean, you choose 1 through 10. You want to change it to an actual number, Shannon?
10.
10? Okay. It's 2.
Oh.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, then endless. Who's that good?
I knew it was going to be way up there.
Yeah. You guys talked about a lot of the good things that happened. There were some bad things, but there was also some things that we learned, like the table. We learned about the table. So there's
the Knights of the Round Table's table.
So much lore that was here and a good conclusion, stuck the landing. And by watching this, I can successfully say I can go back and watch this series again, which was different. And I think a little bit of it is different of my feelings about it now than it was before, is I didn't have to wait a year for a season.
Right.
Yeah, that was hard.
Right. We did take some small breaks, like a month break here and there. But for the most part, we watched an episode a week. And I think the series responds to that sort of slow binge much better than it did those big, huge hiatuses.
Like Sci-Fi did a year and a half.
Yeah, and I think that could have definitely contributed to its ratings going down and such, because, you know, people are fickle and they want things right now. And, you know, if you don't have it for a year and a half, you're going to forget about it. So, because there wasn't a streaming thing at the point in time when they were doing Warehouse 13.
No, but I think
so. There was no other way to watch it. So, you know, unless you watched it, if they had reruns or something, you couldn't watch it again.
I think it helped them that at the first 3 seasons, maybe 4, that they didn't have those long hiatus. Sci-Fi hadn't started doing it yet, because if you look, even season 4 had 20-something episodes, right?
It had the most, 20 episodes, yeah.
So, and then as you got closer to where Sci-Fi started killing off the episodes, because you would lose the fan base when you make them wait a whole 18 months before you come back. People aren't going to have the same kind of interest if you make them wait for things like it may have started earlier, but I noticed that them doing that, like during BSG. Like that was a long time
most
period.
Annoying.
So thankfully they didn't do that. They didn't even do that with Defiance.
No, because they wanted to get it out. So I agree with you, Shannon, and it was my point to begin with. That said, I do realize you cannot take a 64 episode series and film it in 64 weeks. You need to take breaks. You need to build to crescendos and then have a reset and have good idea of fairies come and go, okay, where do we want this to go in the future?
Right.
Where did we want this to go to begin with? Because I guarantee you, the people that created or took on this series from the beginning, they had a concept of where they wanted to go through season 5, through season 7, maybe even through season 10. But you don't get the tweaks that make it a really good series unless you have some time off to get out of the production mode and just start brainstorming
and I get into the creativity mode.
Yeah. So I do realize that. But these year-long plus hiatuses
are brutal. Yeah. They're just brutal. It's really hard to do. Yeah, definitely.
I would say that for me, the things I noticed with sci-fi, like you have a set of shows that I would clump together, like Eureka and Warehouse and Heroes and a lot of different little things that I enjoyed watching. They were like the next generation of things, like Stargate, SG-1, lasted 10 seasons, right? And only the last 2 seasons did they have a change up in characters. But in between then, you had a whole spinoff that lasted another 5 seasons. You just don't have shows like that make it like that anymore. Nowadays, you're doing good if you get a series that makes it past season 4 because of going into production and not production, but syndication and paying everybody. So they don't normally make it past the 4th season without have to redo everyone's contracts. So the type of episodes or the type of series that we got before when we were dealing with Warehouse 13, I think it had a whole other kind of stick to it. Like you have a loyal fan base because you knew you were going to have a next season. You knew it was going to be a long one. So if you get done with season 3, right, that was the big cliffhanger where the whole thing blew up and HG smelled apples. And you're like, oh my God, I can't wait until season 4 starts because I need to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. How do they fix this? The warehouse can't be gone.
But now I think they have shows where if you like Defiance, I'm like, we didn't know if they were going to make it to a 3rd season. And even then you got to fight for it. And then it takes so long for them to tell you whether it's going to get renewed. You're like, I give up. I'm done with you. And then you get people like me who didn't go to the next show, like Winona, until it was almost over because I don't want to put my faith in you. I don't trust you.
Yeah, I came up with SP's cardinal rule about this time that not this was canceled. I think I can't remember exactly which series it was. I know I made the decision to leave sci-fi after the whole Dark Matter debacle.
Dark Matter.
But
Killjoys.
at some point, Dark Matter. But at some point in time, I had this rule that I will not watch a linear TV series until or unless it has a successful 3rd season. Because I didn't want to get invested in something for a year or 2 and then have it yanked and then I have to start all over again. I'm like, no, my time's more valuable than that. So this is just me with experience and age saying I need something that is going to be better. Then streaming happened and a lot of good things came out from streaming of good series that were just phenomenal. And that was good for a while, but then they started to get canceled, like Halo, for instance. So.
Yeah. I haven't watched the 2nd season of that yet.
Yeah, well, you got plenty of time because they're not going anywhere with it. Anyway, we're going to move on to emails. We gave everybody the opportunity. We said we had 2 weeks and you had one last opportunity to give us feedback on our email. And you guys delivered.
Yeah.
So let's
Y'all
go
are
through.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's go through some of these. Some of these are longer, so we'll try to get through them as fast as we can. The first one is for Mike. He goes, hey guys, it's been a pleasure joining you for the 5 seasons of Warehouse 13. I haven't been watching along, even though the Blu-ray box set sits on the shelf. but fortunately, thanks to watching way too much genre TV back in the day, I am familiar enough with the series to follow along with an audio podcast.
Nice.
My favorite episode is perhaps McPherson, but the best moment was in No Pain, No Gain when we saw the creation of an artifact. Ooh, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
That was good. That was really good.
On a more personal note, while Warehouse 13 is a mighty fine show, it was the three of you that nudged me to listen to the first episode, never having been disappointed before, and to stick around week on week.
Aww.
I hope there is a new podcast on the horizon. There is certainly plenty of shows to talk about, but for now, my thanks for keeping me entertained while at work. He did say but me entertained while at work. Regards, Mike. And yes, thank you very much, Mike. That was very nice.
Thanks, Mike. We're so glad that you
watched it. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're so glad you enjoyed our podcast. I'm glad we made you smile on a weekly basis.
The three dorks.
Mostly weekly basis.
Mostly.
We did get another email from Robert Bruce, and to be honest with you, every time I read the subject matter, or the subject line, I read it differently than it says. I have a certain dyslexia on it, and I read it as one last bummer, but it really is last one bummer. I was like, one last bummer. I'm like, oh, he didn't like us, but no, he did. So anyway, Robert, this is what you said. Well, unfortunately, here we are at the end of Warehouse 13. I wanted to write you one last email to tell you how much I appreciated listening to your show and our correspondence. Glad we could connect on Twitter. I usually write and talk about the show from a week before, not the one that you've just reviewed. I wanted to get this to you before the series finale, Endless, which, by the way, is a great episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really like this episode from the dancing on 42nd Street. All of them dancing or trying to. Artie at the computer, of course, dancing as they all are. And his right hand starts to dance away. And the way he looks at it and then brings it back down. Holy stocko. That was funny. He didn't say stocko, by the way.
Fan. Okay.
No. He didn't say stocko.
That's you.
He didn't say stocko,
okay.
But so he does. So he doesn't have to go back and go on that word.
Yeah, there you go. I've heard in the scene when Claudia says scene, that was the very last shot of the series. All right, I'm going to break from reading this. I wanted to bring it up during the podcast because it's in the trivia, but I wanted to give Robert Bruce the kudos because he sent us this email before I saw it in trivia. It was the whole tap dancing sequence. And at the end, when Claudia says scene, was the last thing filmed.
Aww. Makes sense now.
Do you know if Allison Scagliotti can tap dance, or like the Spanish, they just learned that little bit?
They learned it.
Okay. Fight with the Ninjas, loved it, and the background music. LMAO.
That was my favorite.
Yeah. Then Myka gives Pete the look. Aww. Jinks and Artie's heart, very fantastic voyage. Artie's heart to heart with the warehouse. Then the apple rolls out, and with his son. Then he realizes kiss and the rest of the scene. Myka punching him on the arm. Pete coming clean about it, turning him on Myka. I know, with a smile. If they start up the series again, do you think they will still be together? Pete
of course.
Tenderly kissing Mrs. F on the cheek. Future Mrs. D, Jack Kenny getting in a cameo. I knew she'd do it. So, question, do you think they would still be together if they did a continuation? I say yes, because once you're at this point, you got to keep it. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a long one, by the way. Speaking of Claudia, excellent character arc throughout the entire series, from the loony bin to the caretaker, even though she was destined to do it. I've always loved the chemistry between Myka and Pete, some of the best I've seen on TV. Another couple was Harm and Mac from JAG. Why do I bring it up? Well, they both have similar storylines. Both Harm and Pete offered to go in on a kid in 5 years. Both Myka and Mac had lady problems. Both were sterile from it. And both cancer storylines seem to be just thrown in. I just thought
now I'm seeing it a whole new way.
Yeah.
Nice catch, Robert. Nice catch.
And I love Jag.
I just thought it was weird that the specific storylines in the two shows, I wonder if they had the same writers. Well, we know that they didn't, because I would have found it along the way. So two different sets of writers came up with the same thing. SP has his ratings. I'll just give you my top 10. Number 10, season 2, episode 10, When and Where. Number 9, season 1, episode 1, Pilot. Interesting. Number 8, season 4, episode 9, The One You Love. Number 7, season 1, episode 4, Claudia. Woo! Number 6, season 3, episode 3, Lovesick. Also good. That was the In Bed Together.
Chubby blonde, yeah.
Yeah. Number 5, season 3, episode 11, Emily Lake. Number 4, season 4, episode 13, The Big Snag.
Nice.
Yes.
Number 3, season 5, episode 6, Endless. See above for review.
Yeah, really close to yours.
Number 2, season 5, episode 4, Savage Seduction. Ole!
Lost me on that one.
Ole!
Cufflinks changing hands in the wind, music, and ole. The overacting, OMG funny. I wasn't sure if they knew Spanish or they just learned the lines in Spanish. You answered that question when reviewing the episode. The way to gay Jinks and butch Jinks, I thought his brother did those scenes, but again, you answered that too. Claudia and the girls, thanks for showing them off. Oh yeah, I enjoyed that.
I bet you did.
I didn't mind the subtitles, but being an old man, I have to use closed captioning sometimes. And my number 1 episode, drum roll please. Season 3, episode 13, The Greatest Gift.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I've always loved Christmas episodes, no matter what the series. I always liked Is a Wonderful Life. I guess that's why this is number 1 for me. So many things I loved about this episode. The leg lamp from A Christmas Story, the interactions between Pete and Myka. When he tried to convince her, Pete and Myka in prison talking to Artie, and Artie says to Pete, "What did you touch?" Artie meets Claudia in the nut house and the instant teamwork after. Pete explaining to Claudia that we are your family. When Pete goes in the B&B after everything is set right. And the best is when Pete hugged Mrs. F.
That was pretty good.
Artie
I liked
and
that
Claudia
one.
and the wide-eyed no LMAO. I'm sorry for the length of this email, but it is the last one and you should have seen it before I edit it. It would have given War and Peace a run for its money. I want to thank you 3 for the insight, not only on Warehouse 13, but a lot of other things. LOL. Good luck on your future endeavors. I'll be listening for you. Oh, one more thing. You guys have the best job ever. Robert.
Thank you, Robert. That was such a great email. Appreciate that.
It was. And we do. It was just last week we were talking about what we're going to do next. I think we've got something lined up.
We'll finish the other 2 emails and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Robert. That was amazing.
That was. So we have another email from Clyde. The subject is The Greatest Gift. And he starts with season 3, episode 13. This is the episode where McPherson was throwing artifacts into the furnace.
It was McPherson.
Yeah. And it was
right.
The Greatest Gift. Thank you for going through, interviewing, and commenting on the entire Warehouse 13 series. The final thing I will say is it would be awesome for you 3 to watch and comment about the 3 The Librarian movies. Have a great day.
Thanks, Clyde. That was awesome. We will
take
put that under advisement.
Yeah. Okay, last email. You guys want to take a guess who it's from?
Robert.
Yeah. Bruce,
because he's awesome.
And the last email from Robert Bruce. The subject matter is follow up. Last week, when you talking about the furnace, but couldn't remember where you seen it before, it was in The Greatest Gift, my number 1 episode.
Thanks, Robert.
Yes, McPherson was throwing Christmas artifacts in the furnace and try to keep them in that timeline. And I can't believe I forgot to add this part about Pete and Myka and Harm Mac. Both couples fell in love and were going to get married, and both realized their feelings in the very last episode. So even more similarities between the 2.
Go back and watch Jack.
Man, I know, right? Now it makes me want to watch Jack.
All 10 seasons. Okay,
hey,
so question for you.
DVD.
Before I move on with the rest of this, would you watch 10 seasons of Jag or 10 seasons of SG1? Which wins out of those 2?
SG1.
Yeah, SG1.
All right.
Like, I may like Jag, but I'm a sci-fi girl. So, hence the name.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what? You guys are all amazing for sending in such great feedback. I appreciate every single one of you, even the ones that don't and just listen. We are so appreciative of everything. It has been amazing to be able to do this podcast. I've gotten to spend time with my friends talking about this amazing show, and then to get feedback from people or on Twitter or whatever, just saying, hey, you guys are amazing. It's just really sweet that you take the time to do that and to tell us that you really love our show. And we're so glad that it has been something that you look forward to and that you love and that you like to listen to, even if you're not watching the series, but that you're just, waiting for our podcast every week. It's just very sweet of you, and I appreciate it. We appreciate it so incredibly much for listening to our podcast for the last several years. I can't believe we're already at the end. I feel like we just started, but it has been such a fun, exciting time for me to do this with you too. This is my first podcast, and I have loved every second of it. And I don't want it to end. But anyway, I really appreciate everybody sending in the feedback, letting us know what you're thinking. It's been tremendous, and I appreciate it.
Indeed. All right, finishing out the email. And thanks for all the shout outs. Kind of cool driving down the road while you guys are talking about me in a good way. LOL. Cheers again, Robert. Yeah, I will have to say there's something to be said about, even though I'm a podcaster, if somebody else is talking about me on their podcast, it makes me more engaged in it.
That made me more engaged in the Voices of Defiance podcast when Shannon would be like, yeah, Carolyn said this today. And I'm like, aw, she read my post.
You'd be like driving wherever, you're like, oh yeah,
I'd be on I would usually be on like a walk or something. I'd be listening. I'd be like all smiles because Shannon said something about me. And I'm like, hey, I'm on their podcast.
My first, I guess, adventure into podcasting was Voices of Defiance. I'd never done it before. I mean, Sean knew had done it before, or Sean had done it forever. And even though still I don't go back and listen to my own podcast because I sound like a 5-year-old. I don't like my voice. But I realized that SP, that you did this podcast in particular for me because it's my love for Warehouse 13, and also because I can't remember who wrote in before how I forget things or I repeat things, and it does, even though I still have that brain injury. And I'm like, when did we talk about that? Or when did I see that? It still happens. 3 years later almost, and I still have residual from the brain injury that I had. But I realized that you did this podcast for me, and I'm very appreciative of it because I cannot tell you how many times I've gone through this series, because even though I have several favorite series, this is still my favorite. This is still my number one. And it's because of all the different things that we've talked about through this podcast. Of course, I like the Bearing and Wells, but there's so many other things I love. I love Jinks. I like the A team, the B team, Claudia. Everyone makes it work for me. I love that it's like a history episode. Every time they touch something, it's a new history. So for me, doing a podcast over this, it makes me wish that we were doing it while it was happening.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Very difficult to find that these days.
It would have been. But
now things come and go so quickly that podcasts like us, where we're reviewing something that has existed for a while, even if it's been a year or two, are very much more plentiful. Because most of the reaction thing are like 2 or 3 people, maybe panel 5, sitting down and just reviewing the episode really quickly and then just leaving, but not giving any of the deep background that we're able to do years later. And those are the sorts of podcasts that I miss. And I'm glad we're able to do it for Warehouse 13.
Mm-hmm. I think the one that Sean did with BSG was actively, you'd watch it. And then, like we do with Picard, or like we do it with Strange New Worlds, you watch it and then it's easy for me to do those kind of podcast because I just watched it. Everyone's just seen it. Now we can analyze it. But it was easy for me personally because I've watched this series so many times over and over again. This is the show that I put on the background and I just let play while I'm doing whatever else. Yeah. Kind of like my last Mohican. Just let it play. I don't need to sit down with it.
I mean,
because once I sit down, I'm done.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's been a while, but Next Generation, Stargate, we're both that way. The Martian is my go-to now. I know it's only a movie, but that's my go-to. It's played in this house 500 times. So yeah.
Right, you just find those things that you take comfort from.
Yeah.
So being the fact that this was a perfect mixture. I love sci-fi, obviously. I like history. And it felt like a history lesson. So to me, this was the perfect series to latch onto. And even though it's been off the air, how many years? Since 2014? 11 years?
Yep.
And I still love it. So I mean it speaks wonders to how the actors played the characters.
Indeed. Well, I wanted to say my part as well. I actually had this written down. Thank you if you're listening to this, thank you for all your listens, all your downloads, all the emails, all the YouTube comments. Thank you for the 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. They were meaningful in that we were doing something that meant something to other people as well. And that made me continue a couple of times where I'm like, do I need to take another month off right now? No, let's just do this because there's a community that really...
we have listeners.
Yeah. So all of those feedbacks were very much appreciated. Okay, with that, Carolyn.
Let it rip.
What are we doing?
Well, from all of your feedback, and since you guys love us so much, we have decided that we are going to review the 3 Librarian movies. They can be found in the States on Amazon for free. They were 3 about hour and 45-minute movies named The Librarians, and then they had different titles to the rest of it. I can't remember what they are, but we are going to, on this podcast, because The Librarians is kind of like Warehouse 13, but different. So we're going to review The Librarians, the 3 movies, on this podcast. So you aren't done with us yet, unless you want to be, but you're not done with us yet.
This is our coda, our post-curtain call. This is us that are just continuing on a little bit. And if we like it, we might do an entirely new podcast. But the specific movie that we're doing is called The Librarian's Quest for the Spear in our next episode. The tvguide.com description reads, when a brilliant student takes a job at the New York Public Library, he learns it actually involves safeguarding ancient mystic and historical treasures secretly warehoused there, protecting them from the forces of evil. And
I'm
one
excited.
One of the reasons I wanted to do this, is that there is a follow-on series to the TV series. So there was the movies, there was a TV series, and that ended a while back. And now they're doing a follow-on TV series on TNT, which starts like this week or this weekend or something like that. Sunday. So we won't be watching that, but what we will be doing is like, okay, we've heard this is good. Let's watch the movies and see just how good it is for us. And if we want to continue on with it. If we don't, then we might choose something else, or we might just say fairly well. So we'll see what the future brings. No promises, but we are promising on this show, on Artie's Attic, we will be reviewing the next 3 Librarian movies because it is such similar storylines. And this is our attempt to say, hey, maybe this will work. So we'll see how it goes. Let us know what you feel about it, what you think about it, or what you think about The Librarians. All right.
I'm excited. I've never seen it. Any of them.
They're so good. They're so good.
It's been a fun 64 episodes.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to 3 more, and we'll see from there. So until next time, I'm the janitor of Warehouse SP.
This is Sci-Fi Girl.
This is Ocean 363. I think I need to go find some apples. I smell
Or
apples?
fudge.
I think I smell
fudge.
apples.
There's an apple pie in the freezer. I think I'm going to make it tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us for an episode of the Artie's Attic Warehouse 13 Fancast. You can find all our episodes at warehouse13fancast.com. If you'd like to contact us, you can hit us up on our email at warehouse13fancast@gmail.com. We are a part of the Lone Wolf Podcast Network. You can hear more of this cast and other shows like it by checking out lonewolfpodcasts.com. The intro music is Sci-Fi Hybrid Intro by Soundmake, and the outro music is Science Fiction by Tunes to Go. Both were purchased on pond5.com.